Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Carrie Van Osdal, and thank you for listening to my show, The Climb. This is my first time doing anything like this, and I'm really excited about the opportunity, but just kind of bear with me because this is my first time doing anything like this. A little bit about me. I grew up mostly in Salem, Oregon. My dad was in the military, so we did travel a bit as a kid. I lived in Oklahoma for a while, and I also spent 5 years in Germany when I was younger, which was pretty cool experience. But for the most part, I lived in Oregon until recently when we moved to California. I've been married for 17 years to the love of my life, or it'll be 17 years in June. We have 3 amazing kids who 2 of them are adults. My son is 24, my daughter is almost 20, and I have 3 gorgeous grandkids. A 2-year-old little girl, 1-year-old little guy, and then a baby that was just born on April 6th. And I didn't forget, but I also have a 15-year-old daughter who still lives with us and is a freshman in high school. I love to read. I do a lot of reading, especially since my MS has been acting up recently. I love to do crafts. I've really gotten into art journaling lately, as well as Bible journaling, which have become 2 of my favorite things. I love to quilt, crochet, anything crafty, scrapbook, that kind of stuff. I love to cook when I'm feeling up to it. I love camping. When my legs are working correctly and I have energy, I like to hike, go for long walks, although lately I haven't really been able to do a lot of that because my body hasn't really cooperated with me. A little bit about my MS. I was diagnosed in September of 2003. My youngest daughter, Sarah, was 14 months old when I was diagnosed. And my son was 8 and my other daughter was 4. So it was really a difficult time for us having such young kids. And my symptoms came on really, really quick and really strong. They weren't real gradual that I noticed at the time. If I look back, I can see that there were things that were coming on, but I was working full time. At that time, I was a manager for Borders Books, and I was doing great. And I got up one morning and realized suddenly as I fell to the ground that I couldn't put any weight on my legs. They didn't work and I couldn't feel them at all. And it scared me to death. And so we went to the hospital. They started doing some tests. Couldn't really figure out what was wrong with me. I was in a lot of pain as well that I didn't really understand. So I was given pain medicine and sent home with really no answers. So we were in Colorado Springs at the time going to Bible college. My husband and I, our family was all in Oregon. So we called my parents and we went back to Oregon to try to figure out what was going on with me. So I started going through a lot of testing. It took about 6 months, and I got my diagnosis of MS. I was pretty devastated, I guess. My dad had been diagnosed a few years earlier, and so I knew what he was going through and the effect it had on his life. And so I was pretty scared because I knew enough about MS to know that my life was going to change. And I also knew that I was having a lot of trouble walking. I was having a lot of trouble thinking and just doing daily things. And I was in a lot of pain all the time. And I had babies, and it was a really, really difficult time. I went to physical therapy, and I was able to gain back my walking function. And within a year, I was back to work full time again as the manager in Salem of Borders Books, and did pretty good for a while. I continued to go to physical therapy to try to maintain strength and balance and that kind of stuff. I was put on Avonex, which I was on for about 6 months, but the side effects were just really, really difficult for me. I was sick all the time, kind of like I had the flu, and I couldn't do it. So my doctor switched me to Copaxone, which I was on until about 2 years ago, when my doctor switched me to Tysabri. I was on Tysabri until October of 2017, when she took me off of it because my JCV titers were too high and she didn't feel like it was safe. She was going to switch me to a different med, but we lost our insurance because my husband lost his job. So I actually have not been on a DMD medicine since November of 2017. But I do have insurance now, and we'll be starting when hopefully the end of this month is what I'm hoping for, but it, hopefully soon. So let's see. I've struggled a lot since my diagnosis with depression and anxiety. It was a hard pill to swallow for me. Before this, I was really active and thought I had my life together, thought I had my dreams and my goals, and I knew what I wanted, and it just felt like a speed bump that I just wasn't able to handle. And for some reason, I had difficulty sharing that with my family and the people I loved, and so I just became more and more depressed. In 2004, I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I don't even remember, honestly, what month it was at this point. I think I've kind of blocked it, but in 2004, I attempted suicide by overdosing on pills. After I took a bunch of pills and I started to drift off, I knew that I was in trouble. So I called my husband at work, and I called 911 on myself and was taken to the hospital, and thankfully was saved. I was admitted to a psychiatric ward where I was put on depression medicines and was given counseling and tools to handle my depression and my situation. And I know there's a big stigma about that, and it's hard to share because I know that, I don't know, a lot of people have opinions about it, but I don't know. I feel like I need to share it because I feel like I'm not the only one out there that's been there. I've learned since then how to handle my moments of depression, because I still have them. I still have my moments of darkness, or my moments where I just feel like I can't handle things. And to be honest, I still get moments where I feel like, I just can't do this anymore and I just want to die. But then I think of the people I love and the effect it would have on them, and the last thing I would want to do would be to hurt them. And so I turn to counseling and activities and things that make me happy and things that can distract me, and find hope there. So anyway, I know that depression is big with MS, and so I just want to say that if you're struggling with that, with your MS, and you feel alone, you're not alone. That other people have been there and know how you feel, and that you need to reach out and not isolate yourself and feel alone, because other people can relate and understand. So in March 2017, I had my first really, really big relapse since I was diagnosed. I lost my eyesight in my right eye completely, and most of the eyesight in my left eye from optic neuritis. And I also had just really severe headaches. When I went to my neurologist, I was put on Solumedrol for 3 days in the hospital and then sent home. Not sure if I would get my eyesight back totally or not. And it took about 3 months. Yeah, about 3 months. And I did get most of my eyesight back, although it's not like it was before, but I can see, which is great, because I'm telling you that we take that for granted. At least I took that for granted. It's something that I always thought I would have, something I would always be able to see. I never thought in a million years that I wouldn't be able to see my kids or flowers or my house or my husband and things, and not being able to see, having to listen to books instead of being able to read them. It was hard. It was a really, really hard time. It was very humbling, but I was so thankful when I could start to see again. So that was my first really big relapse. My second really big relapse is just recently. In January of 2018, just recently, we moved to California from Oregon, and during the time we were moving in mid-January, I got really, really sick with the flu. And I was sick for about a month, and it turned into bronchitis, and I couldn't get better, and I started to relapse. My symptoms that I had were getting worse, but I also developed new symptoms. In February, I started feeling numbness on my right side and a lot of pain. February 22nd, my husband and I went to Walmart, and we were walking around getting some groceries, and I just started feeling really strange, and I couldn't quite put a finger on it, but it was just different. And I kept telling him, I don't feel right. I just really don't feel right. And my foot started going numb, and it just started traveling up my leg and into my hip and my side and my arm and into my face. And apparently I started talking weird. And then I passed out and had a seizure, which I've never had a seizure before. So of course my husband called 911, and I was taken to the hospital. They called a stroke alert, thinking I was having a stroke, and did the workup for that. Came to the conclusion it wasn't a stroke, but it was MS. They didn't see any active lesions, but there were a lot of lesions, and the neurologist was pretty sure it was MS, or positive it was MS, but he consulted with his colleagues in Los Angeles, and they started to look at a diagnosis of secondary progressive MS. I was in the hospital for 4 days, I believe. 3 days of those on steroids, and then I was transferred to Health South, which is an inpatient rehabilitation facility, where I spent 10 days trying to learn how to walk with no feeling in my leg at all, in my right leg. And I didn't have a lot of feeling in my right arm, or a lot of use in my right arm. So I was trying to learn to function normally as much as possible with that. I went home from the rehab on March 9th, doing okay. I was using a walker and was able to function pretty well. Around March 16th, I wasn't doing real well. I was having more trouble walking and getting around. By that evening, I was starting to lose feeling on my other side, below my waist. I woke up on the morning of March 17th, and I had no feeling at all below my waist, and my bladder wasn't functioning at all. So I got really scared. Back to the hospital we went, and I was admitted once again to the hospital for 3 more days of Solumedrol. The neurologist said that the relapse was still very much in process. I was there for, I think, 5 or 6 days this time. My bladder just wouldn't work either, so I had to have a Foley catheter while I was there, which was no fun. After about 5 or 6 days, I was transferred back to Health South, which was the rehabilitation facility, to try to, with the hopes that I could learn to function, thinking I would be functioning in a wheelchair at this point. But I had the most amazing physical therapist, and he hadn't given up that I would walk. He spent a lot of his personal time doing research, and found that people, could learn to walk with no filling in their legs. And that first day of physical therapy, he got me up on the parallel bars, and I stood for, 15, 20 seconds, and that was all I could do. And I broke down and I just cried. And I swear he was going to cry with me, but he kind of smiled and he said, "Don't make me cry." And I don't know. He was a pretty special physical therapist, and the one thing that I loved about him is that he never gave up on me, and he pushed me, and he pushed me really hard because he knew that I could walk. And I'll be darned if he did not help me walk with no filling in my legs. It took about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or so, and I was walking around the gym with a walker with no filling in my legs, which was pretty amazing. I didn't think it would happen. I doubted it. I was resigning myself to being in a wheelchair. I guess you could say I'd given up a little hope, but David wouldn't let me give up hope, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because I'm walking today because of that, with no filling in my legs. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, and some days it's really, really hard, harder than others. But I've learned that if you have the determination and the will, you can do almost anything. I've learned that my mind can be more powerful than my body. If I tell myself I can do this, I'm going to do this, I'm strong enough to do this, and MS is not going to kick my butt, I'm going to kick MS's butt, then I can overcome almost anything. And so can you, and so can everyone out there, because we are stronger than this disease, and our minds have so much power. And even if you're in a wheelchair and have to be in a wheelchair and you can't walk, there's still so much that we can do. Our mind is just so powerful. And I guess I'm saying is, don't give up. Don't give up hope. Don't think that it's over because we have MS and we have limitations, because it's not over. We have so much to offer, so much to give, so much to share. And wow, look at me go on a tangent. Every day I have to work on my strength. I have to work on my balance. I have my weights. Well, I have cans right now, but I'm going to have weights that I work on my arms, to keep that strength up. And my friend and I do yoga in the morning to keep that strength up. And I do what I can to stay strong. And, MS is just another challenge to overcome. It's not a death sentence, and it's not the end of my life. I want to be there to do things with my teenager. I want to be able to be there to do things for her and with her, and not have to be at home missing out because I'm tired or because I'm too weak or whatever. And I know that happens. It happens more than I like, but my goal is for it to happen less and less. And I found this quote while I was in the hospital. I found a lot of quotes while I was in the hospital. My theme was kind of wrapped around hope, and a good friend of mine came into my hospital room and decorated my room with Bible verses and different quotes that had to do with hope. And I would just look around and I would know that they were there and I could read them, and it just kept me going. And this one, I'll just share it with you. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try it just one more time. And I would read that in the morning before they would come get me for physical therapy, because that was some of the hardest stuff I've ever done. I mean, it was 3 hours a day, and it's exhausting, and I didn't want to do it half the time. I'd rather just lay in that bed and watch TV or whatever than have to get up and do stuff that hurt or that was exhausting or whatever. You know, I didn't want to do it, but I knew that if I was going to get better, you know, if I was going to be good for my family and for myself, then I had to keep going. I couldn't give up. So as my journey continues, I want to share with you guys, you know, where I'm going and how I'm doing, and I'm hoping and praying that I get filling back in my legs as I go on this journey, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I don't give up hope that it's going to happen. But I have things that I really want to do. I want to go back to school, and I want to become a counselor, and I'm hoping that I can do that and that can happen. That's one of my dreams. I just really feel like helping people and deal with emotions and pain and struggles is just really something that would be meaningful to me and that would help me in my life. And so hopefully this radio show will be inspiring to some people or to you, and that's my goal, is to be inspiring and to maybe help somebody along the way, and maybe I'll get better at it, and you know, just be able to be an inspiration somewhere, because that's my whole plan. I appreciate you being patient with me in the meantime, as I'm learning the ropes, because I really don't know what I'm doing too well. But I am so thankful for this opportunity, and I think that I was given this opportunity for a reason, and I hope that you enjoy listening to me. And I just wanted to kind of give you a synopsis of who I am and what I've kind of gone through, and so MS affects us stress-wise too. So I'll share with you really quick. My 15-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a heart condition a couple months ago, and about a month ago had heart surgery, which has been really stressful, and I know has affected my relapse as well. She has another procedure coming up next week, and we're not really sure what that's going to reveal. So I'm trying to stay strong there too, so that it doesn't send me into another relapse or, you know, make my body rebel, because it is stressful, worrying about your kids and what's happening with them and trying to take care of yourself, and that's just life. And I'm I'm reading a quote right now in my journal, and this kind of reminded me of my time in physical therapy too, and some of you will really relate to this, but you're allowed to scream, you're allowed to cry, but don't ever give up. And that's kind of my theme too, no matter what's going on in your life, in our lives, as we go through our MS journeys. Just remember that giving up isn't really an option. no matter how hard it is or how frustrating it is. And I know I read through the posts and comments on the ladies page of MS&Me, and I see so much hurt and pain, and it just makes me sad, the lack of support sometimes that families offer to us, and I can relate to that. But know that if you're not on any of the MS&Me groups, you should join one, because you'll find so much support there. It's the best thing I've ever done for myself, personally, because I know that when my family doesn't understand, there's somebody on there that's going to understand me and give me support. So there's my little plug for that. Thank you guys so much for listening today, and for getting to know me. I'll be back next week, and hopefully you'll listen, and hopefully I said something that can give somebody hope or inspiration or a reason to come back and listen. I promise it'll be better next week. And I hope you'll come back. And I'm going to leave you with one more quote. So look for something positive in every day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. Have a great Monday, and thanks so much.